be able to help pay for that, to help defer some of the cost. I believe that's the reason for the language that says, or other town property, just in case the basketball court, as an example, is 100 yards outside the high school property across the street at Nevers. Without that language, and maybe somebody could ask the town manager if I'm correct, but without that language, I think it would be difficult to use any excess money left over from the referendum. All right, so I think that was the town trying to get ahead of it and answering a question that came from the council. All right, those two issues, hopefully it'll be 9-0 in about a half an hour, but I'm not sure that'll be the case. But I don't want you to get hung up on either of those two issues because I don't really think they're issues at all. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Anyone else who would like to come forward at this time?
Audrey Breen, 3 Murray Road. Good evening, Mayor Delnicki and Town Council members. I am here to speak about the proposed ordinance change which will make the library a town department instead of a grant agency. I am a native-born South Windsor resident, as well as an adult services librarian at the South Windsor Library and the president of the Library Workers Union. Making the library a town department will improve services for our community. Both myself and the library workers for whom I speak wholeheartedly support making the library a town department. The current structure not only impedes budgetary transparency, it also muddies the waters in regards for whom the library workers actually work. Are we town employees or are we employees of the library board? That has since been addressed and answered, but it's probably surprising for you to know that it actually took some time. This confusion extends to employee policies and who sets them. In the end of that confusion effectively isolates the workers, as we are left unsure as to whom to bring concerns when policies are inconsistently applied. I am fully aware that making the library a town department will not magically make problems disappear. However, I am convinced increased transparency across both the budget and employee relations will help create a library which functions smoothly and effectively provides services for our community. I look forward to the upcoming public hearing on this issue, and I do hope to see you all at the library so we can show off our amazing programs and collections. And I promise not to shush you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward at this time for any item on the agenda? Yes, sir.
My name is Ray Paula, and I live at 25 Mohegan Trail in South Windsor. I frequently use the town's athletic facilities, particularly the outdoor swimming pool, the tennis courts, and the soccer fields. I want to talk about those last two. The Board of Ed's high school campus plan has 7 post-tension concrete tennis courts in front of the high school, replacing the current 6 tennis courts behind the high school to make way for a new lighted multi-purpose turf field. I expect 7 courts is because high school tennis matches are 4 singles and 3 doubles. However, most towns in our district reference group have complexes of 8 tennis courts, including Rockville, Glastonbury, and East Hartford high schools. 2 sets of 4 courts, each would better serve the school and the community at a minimal additional cost. It needs to be 8 courts facing north-south. The Parks and Recs 2020 Master Plan recommends either the premier or the post-tension concrete tennis courts. The Board of Ed plan does not mention lights for the tennis courts. I'll let the pickleballers lobby for their own lights. Replacing 6 lit, albeit inadequately, tennis courts with 7 or 8 unlit courts would be unacceptable to the tennis community. These relocated courts should also have security cameras to discourage unauthorized users such as skateboarders, dog walkers, and net abusers. So it needs to be 8 lit premier or post-tensioned concrete courts facing north-south with security cameras. As for the lighted multi-purpose turf field, there's a debate as to whether artificial turf fields cause more players' injuries versus natural grass fields, and some professional and college football teams are replacing turf with grass for that reason. But a multi-purpose field with its rainbow of colored lines needs to be turf, but it also needs to be a three-season field. The existing high school stadium turf multi-purpose field was the home field for my adult co-ed soccer team for 1 year. And by June, it was like playing in a sauna. On a sunny day, the sun beats down on the players from above, but also reflects up off the plastic grass. A great place to get a tan, but dangerously hot for players. Consequently, the current unlit field is a two-season field, spring and fall. Lights will make this new multi-purpose turf field a three-season field. It will be used in the summer at night. The Parks and Recs 2020 Master Plan recommends Musco lighting for sporting and recreational facilities. And let's be creative about financing this project. The East Hartford High School Tennis Courts Complex is preferred by much of the area tennis community. My understanding is that it was financed by federal, state, and town resources. It has carports topped with solar panels in the parking lot, and it's my understanding that those solar panels power the tennis courts, power the lights at the tennis courts. So perhaps it was sold as a green energy project. And the Rockville High School Tennis Courts Complex has a plaque commemorating a large individual donor. Should the lighted multi-purpose turf field site also be unacceptable to the neighbors, a plan B could be to leave the tennis courts where they are with renovation and expansion, and instead locate the lighted turf field at the planned new tennis court site. A lights opposing neighbor of the existing stadium field once told me that this location off Nevers Road was originally supposed to be the site of the stadium when the high school was built. I realize that this is practically across the street from the rejected Parks and Rec lighted multi-purpose referendum, but at that time it unfortunately shared the referendum with the misguided proposal to purchase the Rockville Bank building as our new town hall, a building which is still for sale. Make no mistake about it, this referendum will be a tough sell, coming on the heels of the highest tax increase in the town's history, double digits by my estimate. What I'm saying, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Anyone else like to come forward for any item on the agenda?
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Sexton. I live at 15 City View Terrace. One of the property owners of the abetting. I'm right off of Collins Crossing. Number one, I'm concerned about the traffic. I haven't really been informed of what this whole process is going to entail in terms of rerouting traffic. Is it going to back up on Collins Crossing and abut against 194 there? I'm also in favor of a referendum, and the gentleman who spoke before me shares a lot of my concerns, especially when I'm a former athlete and I've seen horrendous injuries from artificial surfaces as opposed to natural grass fields. And I'm all in favor of making the lighting and better for everyone and everything else that has been proposed, but I can't get past the artificial surface. And I'll tell you something else, $8 million is difficult for me to swallow. That seems like an awful lot of money. I realize I'm probably from the Stone Ages. I went to high school in the 70s, but Maybe if I could see in greater detail this whole proposal, I could be convinced otherwise. But I'm wholeheartedly in favor of a referendum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sexton. Any other folks like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, Nikki Mahan, 50 Henry Road. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to state my support for the campus improvement plan being sent to referendum. Anyone who has familiarized themselves with this plan knows that this plan has been well thought out and has not been rushed. Dr. Carter and her team have done the best job I have seen in the last 14 years out of all the plans that have been brought forward. As our town council, you are voted by the community members to act based on what your constituents feel is best for the town of South Windsor. Tonight, like many other nights and many other meetings, the public has spoken in support of sending this plan to referendum. To concur with Samantha Petgrave, you sending it to referendum is not saying you agree with the plan. We understand that. Tonight alone, out of the 8 South Windsor community members that have spoken regarding the campus improvement plan, have not only spoken in support of the plan, but have also spoken in support of sending it to referendum. As elected officials by your constituents, how can you not vote to send this to referendum as the majority of residents have spoken in favor to do so? Let the community decide. Thank you.
We have only about a minute left of public input. I'd like to make a motion to extend public input for about 10 minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Another 10 minutes. Mr. Edwards?
Let's see if I can get this right this time. Much like last week, I'm actually here speaking on behalf of myself, but on behalf of somebody else. I know there are many letters probably to read into the record, but it's not clear if they will or not. So I'm here reading on behalf of Jeff Trachtenberg, 111 Oxford Drive. Dear Commissioner, dear councilors, I'm writing to express my opposition to the proposed $7.55 million referendum sports complex. After the town's largest property tax increase in decades, you want to burden us with yet another project which will cost us approximately $12 million on the low end after bonding for 20 years. This is not the right time. The project also appears to be rushed. While I will not dispute the last person's comment, that's my own comment, it might be a well thought out plan, but the timing is actually rushed. We have a new town council, new board of ed. Not only that, but as an example of being rushed, we have town councilors wanting additional basketball considerations, basketball courts, et cetera, added to the proposal, which will just increase the tax burden on taxpayers. We need to say no to additional spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Anyone else would like to come forward for anything on the agenda?
Nice. Good evening, council members. My name is David Hodge. I live at 83 Muriel Drive, South Windsor, Connecticut. I also teach at the high school, and I'm also the football coach. So obviously, I'm in favor of moving the referendum forward to March. And as other people have said, moving it so that goes rest of March will save money. If you move it to referendum in the fall, it's going to cost us more money. Another group of kids who don't get to play and utilize the turf. When it comes to usage of the field and extending the use in grass as opposed to turf, you want to spend more money, you put in grass because then you need more workers to maintain it at a level that is safe. Because grass used by football teams, as we're not invited to Rye Street a ton, they do let us play there once a year because we tear it up. High school football players very heavy, very strong, and when it rains, the turf gets torn up, in most high schools. I don't know of a single high school that's put in a new grass field. It just doesn't happen. The turf has evolved even since our turf field that we play on now has been put in. They're safer, they're softer. Winter comes, playing on grass is like playing on concrete. It is hard. By the time we're done November, middle of November, hopefully in the playoffs in December. So that's another consideration of why turf is much better than grass. You know, with the young kids in the audience here, I believe it's the responsibility of elected officials to do what's best for the town and allow the town to have a voice. And the Board of Ed, which is a group that reports to you and comes to you and has said this is what they want to move forward to referendum. And I believe it's your responsibility to do so, to let the public make the decision on whether it should go forward and we want to spend the money or not. Just like the council did with the elementary schools. And I believe the majority of the town is very happy with the elementary schools and what it's done to our housing values and the quality of life in town, and continue to increase that increases our property values. Yes, it increases our taxes, but a great number of people like to see their property values go up, and I would certainly like to see mine go up. And I think if we don't move this forward now, it's going to be a long time before it comes forward. I think this is the right time to move it. I know there's other things that the town needs that might even be more expensive coming forward. The number of students keeps increasing, not decreasing. Apartments being put in, more condo complex, going to have expenses with them, and we need the playing surfaces, not just for football. I coach track. We have lacrosse practicing as we're running around. Yeah, there's some netting and it's safe, but is it an ideal situation for our kids? Absolutely not. The tennis kids work as hard as any of the other athletes in the school. If you can put in 8 tennis courts, and that's better for the community, put in 8 tennis courts. This referendum's not just affecting the football program. And I think there will be some kickback if it's not pushed in March. I think there'll be a lot of unhappy people if we don't get a chance to vote. So I hope you put it forward in March. I think it's a great plan. I've seen a lot of these, and this has the best chance of passing. And if the taxes get increased, it's the people who decided to increase them. And that it should be our decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Anyone else like to come forward for items on the agenda?
John Bayreuther, D4 St. Mark's Circle. Over the last few years, you've built first-rate elementary schools coupled with good instructors, and what do you see? People wanting to come to South Windsor because of the outstanding education they can get at elementary school. What I'm seeing here is that when we get to high school, the academics may be fine, but you have real deficiencies in your athletics in terms of fields and what have you that are being discussed here. So the question I pose to you, do you want an inferior school in athletics when they get to high school? I'm single. Yes, my property taxes went up 28%. I have no children, but I think we need superior athletic facilities too.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward for any item on the agenda? Going once? Going twice? Okay, moving on. Thank you. Item 8, adoption of minutes of previous meeting. Councilor Boganski.
Approval of the January 2nd, 2024 Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of January 2nd, 2024.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item 9, communications from liaisons, officers, boards directly responsible to the council. Councilor Carey.
So I just wanted to mention that planning and zoning, the state of Connecticut requires that a plan of conservation and development be updated every 10 years. Planning and zoning will be having a meeting on Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, from 7 to 8:30 at the Charles Ennis Community Center on 150 Nevers Road, South Windsor. Encourage all members of the public to please attend. The plan of conservation and development is, the structural strategic plan for the town, and so your input is greatly appreciated. So we do have some flyers about it, but just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carey. Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to read something quickly from the chair of the Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission, Ms. Renew Cabot. The date is Saturday, the 24th of February, 2024, for the Social Justice Day. Time will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The venue will be from the Friends Room of the South Windsor Public Library. The program that they plan on putting on is to have 3 panel speakers presenting on different social justice subjects. They're also going to have exhibitors from various organizations in relation to the subject matter, hosting resource tables that members of the community in attendance can visit and learn more to sign up to be involved. They are putting a resolution to be brought up at our next agenda meeting. But for now, I just wanted to have people put that on their calendar. Again, Saturday, the 24th of February, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Social Justice Day, the Friends Room, South Windsor Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor King. Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Mayor. PBC, there were actually 2 meetings. January 8th, the PBC Town Manager, Director of Parks and Rec, Chair of Parks and Rec Commission, and building person from the town, I think his name is Clay, were present. The discussion item there was the existing Parks and Rec building needs to be brought up to code, elevator, HVAC, et cetera. The commission decided to contact Colliers and ask them to write an RFP and do a walkthrough as necessary with architects to see if changes need to be made to accommodate the Parks and Rec programmatic needs. I think that came to a $5,900.
Yeah, I just got a quote in my email late last week. It looks like it's about $6,000 total. I'm trying to get some more clarity from the chair of PBC as to the total dollar amount, what they would need. Just to provide a little additional information is we don't have those dollars allocated anywhere, so we would have to come back to the council looking for you to either allocate them from contingency or some other location. That being said, we would need to do that work first, so it's going to take a little bit to figure that out. Yeah.
They met again on January 10th. The discussion regarding Pleasant Valley School and how things were wrapping up. Main item of interest is that the PBC had to install a $400,000 cell phone repeater to allow cell service at the school. I guess it's some sort of dead zone. This didn't have to be done at any of the other schools. It's because there's a dead zone there. Despite the fact there's an emergency tower at Veterans Park, the commission asked the town to look into why cell carriers have not attempted to use that tower for transmission. Is that something you had a chance to do?
Sure. So the cell tower at VMP, we do have an agreement with Marcus Communications, and they're actively working on marketing that tower to cell phone company carriers. To date, I haven't heard any responses yet, but I know that they are reaching out to see who else would be interested. I'm sure there is going to be at some point. So.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Councilor Lewis.
Last month at the WPCA meeting, Superintendent Manfrey presented his first draft of the 24-25 budget. He highlighted the sanitation sewer evaluation study, known as SSES, that will identify issues for maintenance and repairs. Mr. Manfrey also presented a 10-year capital improvement plan, which looks ahead to treatment plant improvements, pump stations upgrades, and pipe repairs. He mentioned the complexities of ARPA funding and his continued work with DEEP. which is the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Excuse me. They elected new officers. Michael Lyon is the chair for the WPCA. Thanks to Steve Wagner for his service as a resigning chair. And special thanks to State Representatives Tom Delnecki and Senator Saud Anwar for their help in getting a grant awarded to the WPCA for the odor control project. These improvements that have been completed has already made a significant impact to the neighborhood on Main Street, which is great news for that. Parks and Rec, last month, Will Kersey from our Patriotic Commission expressed thanks to Parks and Rec for their partnership in celebrating our veterans. There are 2 funding sources for the trail projects of Walk and Wheels, Part A, and it was reported that there was significant progress made with the splash pad that we heard from last month, and Genevieve Corsi was elected as a new chair, replacing Toby Lewis. That's all I have.
You all set, Councilor Lewis?
Yes.
Councilor Pendleton?
Mr. Maniscalco, I just have a question just for clarification. And Councilor Balboni, you had mentioned improvements of ADA improvements. Is that what it was for the public building for the Parks Department? Is that what they said? Is it for ADA at the Parks building?
So the conversation at the Public Building Commission, they wanted to explore the Old Orchard Hill building as well, because no matter what they end up deciding to do, it's going to be compared to Old Orchard Hill as well. And that led to a discussion around the Old Orchard Hill building and the idea that it was permitted as a school, and when you change the use of a facility from, of a public facility from one use to another use, there needs to be a number of upgrades that need to occur, including ADA, fire code, building code. There's a whole laundry list of things. So that's what that conversation
So that
was
$6,000 number is also including fire code and ADA?
I believe that's what they were going to look into, yeah.
Okay, because because you were talking about where the money should come from or whatever. I know that there's money in capital for ADA improvements. Could that possibly come out of that?
I think that's meant more for like hard brick and mortar improvements rather than a study. This is a study.
It's for the study. The 6,000 is for the study?
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't get that.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem.
Seeing no more communications, moving on to item 10, reports from committees. Seeing none. Item 11, consent agenda. Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve 11A1 through 11A2 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Councilor Lewis, 11B. Councilor Lewis? Councilor Lewis, your microphone, please.
Thanks. Who would have figured I need to be told that, right? Resolution appointing Daniel Edwards as an alternate of the Economic Development Commission. Be it
Councilor, you just have to read 11B1.
I asked you. Oh. To approve 11B1 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. 11B, Councilor Pendleton.
Motion to approve 11B2 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Second. We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11C, miscellaneous, there's none. Unfinished business, item 12, there's none. Item 13A, discussion item amendments to Chapter 66 Library. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The previous council actually tasked me with starting to look into this, and as we had some discussions surrounding some of the town attorney's findings related to how to move forward, you know, we've been looking at what it would take to take the library and the library board and make the town library more of a town department rather than a grant-funded agency. The council asked me to do a cost benefits analysis of what that would look like. It's a little bit difficult to do a traditional cost benefit analysis in this scenario just because as a grant-funded agency, the town is actually already supplying a fairly significant amount of services to the department, to the agency already, whether it's facility services or IT services or there's a whole litany, HR services, administration. The town has already been trying to help in making that department move forward in that regard. So we're pretty well already down that road. We do think that there would be some savings from the turning them into a department due to some redundancy from one of the staff positions that's there related to some more back office type work that's done. So we do see that there would be some savings in that regards, and we probably would potentially find additional ones down the road as things moved on and moved forward. But in your packet is a draft of the ordinance that was put together by the town attorney that would basically create a very similar scenario to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, where you have a board that advises the director of the department as to, you know, the newest trends and things that are happening within that that realm. And then in terms of day-to-day oversight, there's a director of the department as well as myself to ensure that the department operates and functions in the appropriate way with its budget. I do think it would lend some additional transparency to the library if it were changed over to a department specifically related to their budget, as we found some pretty big difficulties this last year as we went through the budgetary process with the library, and trying to even just provide information to the council in terms of trying to move that forward. I think that covers the large majority of it. Just from a procedural standpoint, this is an ordinance, so in order for the council to modify that ordinance, you would essentially set a public hearing, which I believe is an item that we put on the agenda for you moving forward. And if the council wants to, you would set that public hearing for your next meeting. You would hear whatever the public has to say. You then have the option either at that meeting or a future meeting to approve or modify however you see fit the ordinance. Once you do then vote on the ordinance, it would sit for 30 days and then it becomes law, like all the other ordinances. I think it might be a little bit of a longer turnover just in terms of actually transitioning them fully into a department. There are some IT issues that we would have to iron out, but overall, I think we could get close to that time frame and moving forward. So I'd be happy to answer any additional questions the council has.
Councilor Carey?
So as I was reading this document that you shared under section 66-2, one of the things it said is the town shall provide suitable space and rooms for public library purposes. And I guess my question is, why are we changing?
I'm sorry, why are we changing?
Like today, if you needed a public library room, you can go online and reserve it, or you can ask one of the librarians and they can guide you to where you can go. So I always dislike anything that adds to bureaucracy. So if there's a process that works today, do we need to change it?
Well, this doesn't change that process. This ensures that those rooms are available. Just the same way that they are available today, it ensures that they're available tomorrow and the day forward and the day forward and the day forward. From my perspective, moving this forward, you know, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel, if at all possible. I've had conversations with the director, Kevin, many times, and I think both he and I are probably on the same page in regards to we don't want to reinvent anything or do anything different. And if this were to work 100% seamlessly, the general public isn't even going to know there's any difference. Essentially, it's a lot of back office services for the library that are going to be beneficial to the operations of the library, from HR, finances, administration, things of that nature that are going to be very beneficial. The day-to-day operations for the public, I think the public is still going to sign up for their private rooms or however it's done now in the exact same manner as it's done before.
Okay, and then the second question I had is under C. It says the town managers, so I understand about the personnel and all the things that we talked about. So I just have some questions on the little things. Under C, it says the town manager shall employ a library director who shall serve as advisor to the board of directors of the library and implement the policies of the town and the library as directed by the town manager. And I just wondered if that shouldn't really read, and the library board. Like, I would think that, you know, sometimes when you're hiring people and you've got a board, you do something where not everybody, but the library director, you would hire them. It would be the library board and the town manager would hire them so that, you know, your board has some buy-in into that position. You know, board of directors works that way a lot of times for corporations. So I just wondered if, you know, some of the language, like how we're still going to incorporate the board into what's going on.
Sure. So I think from an employment standpoint, the challenge you're faced with in that scenario is that, fortunately or unfortunately for me, I hire and fire all employees in the town. That's in the charter, and there's no questions about that. So I think if you were to include the library board in terms of hiring, while my personal perspective, and I can tell you how I would do this personally, is that we most definitely are going to include them in that process. We're going to have some type of representative from the library board, some type of representative from the public, and sitting in on all those committees and processes. That said, I think if you were to write it into an ordinance that they would have, how would I say it? They would have a direct input or direct say in who ends up being hired, that could be contradictory to what's in the actual town charter, which could be problematic.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I share some of the same concerns of Councilor Carey. I'm curious as to how much of your bandwidth of time it would take, because I'm not thinking that we need to make the town's job bigger and more elaborate. And at the same time, I respect and love the fact that we've had board of directors there now who have kind of give heart, body, and soul to this. And so their input, it's good to say that they'd have input, but you used the example before, similar to Parks and Rec, and being on Parks and Rec for years, I know we had no power or authority to do anything. The only thing we did was work on the master plan, and we had no say-so with that for anything. So there was no power or authority there, and I think we'd like to see the board of directors of the library, perhaps, or maybe the town does, with a little bit more input as to how things are done. I think the fear is that the town can assert control and then start picking the books and start doing that, and I realize that wouldn't be your intent. You may not always be there, so maybe some other town manager. So we need to take protective measures to maintain what we have. So those are some of my concerns.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I know that most of the council is new as of this term, and I think there's a lot of history here and just, you know, a lot of things that we experience going through the budget process that maybe would be important for the current council to kind of be aware of. And I'm sure I'm not going to cover everything, but just to generally to kind of cover what some of our concerns were, was, you know, historically there were some discrepancies with spending and line items. You know, there was no oversight of the budget, and, you know, we then worked with the, who sends us the? Patty, the spending. So she would send us the fiscal year spending. She would also then send the library spending, which are two separate documents, budgets, which come to us as documents. So I think for us, it was helpful to be able to see those line items as they were spent. A huge concern for me, and kind of maybe what started pushing this forward a little bit, is that we were without individuals in full-time positions for years, months to years. And I think even currently, it's kind of being worked out until some of these issues are worked out. So for me, not having a children's director, not having a reference librarian, not having people that positions are accounted for in the budget, but are not being filled and are not being paid for from the budget. And that's where kind of our hands were tied. And I don't think, in some of the discussions we've had previously as a council, even recently, some of the concerns I have is I don't want this to become, we're not running a library. We're not overseeing what books are being built. We're not excluding books. We're not hiring and firing. That is not really our job. That's Mr. Maniscalco's job, potentially. But I think that, just to give some fluidity to the process, and looking at this as a cost savings, and knowing some of the issues that have kind of gone into this running as its separate entity, I think this solves so many issues. And even hearing from current employees and even hearing previously from the new director that is in place, that how much they are in favor of it. So I think there's a lot more to discuss with this, maybe just kind of like informationally. And I think hearing from the library, hearing from the public is really important. But I think this is great, and we've made some great progress with this information, so thank you.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Thank you, Mayor Delnicki. I have just two questions for you, Mr. Maniscalco. One being and I do think this is a good thing. I really do, and have had the pleasure of having a few months of experience prior to the current council. And I agree with Councilor Evans, we were given some more information, but one question is, what would the relationship between you and the library director look like? Would he still, have the authority over the staff? And then my next question would be, would we be in any sort of jeopardy of losing any current grants that we have the way the library is now?
Sure. So first of all, in terms of the relationship, he would be considered a department head, so no different than the same relationship I have with all the other department heads throughout the town. And then in terms of grants, the library would still be a library. It'd still be eligible for all the library grants that are out there. And I would tell you, in part of the conversations that we've had, and I've had conversations with the chair of the board as well as the library union, there were some questions related to, what does a town library look like, and are you aware of any of those? In previous work experience, I have been the town manager in a community where they did have a library that was a town department, and it operated very similarly to the way our town library does. But I would say that there was a bit more oversight, there was more transparency provided, and all those same grants and everything else were still, adhered to very similarly to like what we have here. So I'm not worried about losing any of those things, let's put it that way.
Thank you for clearing that up. I assume that was the answer. I've been asked that a couple times, and I just could not answer that confidently, so that's good to hear. But that's all I have.
Any other discussions? Councilor Evans, I do have a question for you. Your comments regarding, yes, you. Do you think we'll need a discussion item, or do you think it's okay to set the date for the public hearing?
I think if we set the date of the public hearing and hear the opinion of the public, I think if we have, we wouldn't have a resolution on the next agenda. That would come the meeting after the public hearing, would be my assumption. So that would give us some time to gather some information. It might be useful. I don't know if it would be in our minutes from the budget process of that discussion. That might be helpful for all of you to just kind of get that background knowledge. you know, and just to be able to discuss and kind of get that information ahead of time between
Okay.
now and when we would see it as a resolution.
Okay.
Ordinance change,
It
sorry.
would be just to make sure everybody understands, it's the council's prerogative whether you want to take it up that same night as the public hearing or not. So you could do it that same night, you could do it another night, however you'd want to do it.
Okay, thank you. Now you have something to say, Counselor Pendleton?
I do. I just want to follow up with that conversation. So we're going to be asking the clerk of the council to submit the information from the discussion of the library from the last budget. Is that correct? So that way we can all get that background information of how this came about?
Sure, that sounds good.
That's all. I just wanted to follow through with that,
That's-
so.
That was probably around, I think, part of the April meeting, I think you guys were discussing that last time?
No, Amanda can figure that out.
Or was it just closer to May? But,
Would be whatever night that the library presented their budget,
Yeah.
I believe.
all right.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Okay, so seeing no more discussion on that, moving to item 13B, Counselor Lewis.
Resolution authorizing the Water Pollution Control Authority to enter into an agreement with the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Be it resolved that the town of South Windsor may enter with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate for a grant of $1.3 million for odor control improvements at the wastewater treatment plant located at 1 Vibert Road, South Windsor, Connecticut.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 13C, Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution appropriating $7,550,000 for the planning, design, acquisition, installation, construction, equipping and furnishing of campus improvements and new athletic facilities at South Windsor High School or other town property, and authorizing the issuance of $755,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose as shown in attached Exhibit B.
We have a second? Discussion? Any discussion?
Could I?
Counselor Baginski?
I'm just
Or
gonna-
did you,
Yeah, I just have
sorry,
one.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Not a problem. I just have a couple comments. I've been for this and have been for this since I was a student at the high school. I want to thank Merrick for coming in tonight. That was the only item that I did have circled as well, the or other town property. I would just love a little bit further explanation on that, because my only worry is, again, I agree that the town should be the one to decide what goes on, but a lot of people tonight have also said that this should be done right, and things in the past and recent past have been pushed through quickly and incorrectly and could be detrimental. So I do believe people in town seeing that, it may drive them away from this, because technically I know what's being said, and thank you, Mr. Zimmerman, for bringing that up. That's good to have that assurance, but in writing, it's technically saying, you know, you can, if the referendum doesn't go through, you can go ahead and take this $7.5 million and use it, you know, elsewhere. So can you just, maybe Mr. Maniscalco or town attorney, can you guys kind of clarify that a little bit?
So the language that's drafted here is from the bond council, and it's very specific, in particular, to address the concern that was brought up at the last town council meeting, that what happens if the project changes a little bit and there's money left over and you want to use that money for some other facility or purpose. you would not be able to do that in the event that language was not in there. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Okay, but does that language also allow technically Mr. Maniscalco to appropriate those funds to another project? Because I would think the Board of Ed folks would agree, and the people who want the fields, if that's the only reason that it's on there, just because we want to use the extra funds for whatever else in that project, and that's how that has to happen, can they technically use that money for another project based on that wording?
I mean, technically, yes, that's what the whole purpose of that language is for.
Okay.
Right? I don't think it would be the intention or appropriate to not go forward with the project that's being voted on for that amount, right? That's the purpose of the project. But if for some reason the project changes and there's excess funds, that's the purpose of the language. Otherwise, you'd be stuck borrowing the money and not being able to use it for anything.
Okay, thank you.
I would, I'm sorry to cut in, but I would also say, you know, technically, yes, you could take the money and use it somewhere else. In reality, though, I think if whether it's me or whomever else is sitting in this position were to take $7.5 million and decide to go build a pool with it rather than do the improvements as outlined in the resolution, that would probably be the end of your career. So I think there's what's in writing, and then also don't forget, as the town council, you have a lot of authority over someone like in my position who, you know, if I were to go and turn around and use those monies for something different that is not outlined in that project, in that scope of work in the resolution, then that could be problematic too.
Yeah, the town manager brings up a good point. Any excess funds would be your prerogative as to how to use them. Without that language, you'd be kind of handcuffed. With that language, it's up to you.
Yeah, that was the purpose of my question. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. So we would still have to approve anything, let's just say the referendum doesn't pass, we would still have to approve the use of that money.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you.
Counselor Evans?
Thank you. So I think that if other properties is truly the make or break in this situation, then I would be in favor of removing it if that's going to be the thing that's going to hold us back. As shared and asked of us, you know, of the public and everyone who has come in and spoke, is that we really put this to referendum and let the town decide. I've also heard, it was mentioned tonight, and I've heard of no one here on the council bringing forward the idea of pushing this off to November. So I would really be shocked if that was something that was suggested tonight. I really think that would work against us because it would end up costing us more in the long run to make that decision. This is something that's been talked about for years, decades, prior to when I was a resident of South Windsor. You know, many people have spoken to me about how long ago it was. You know, someone here said that they when they were a student, were hoping for this as well. So I will be voting in favor, and I hope all the rest of you will. Thank you.
Counselor Baganski?
Thank you. I guess I'm confused as to why we're discussing spending excess money. The last meeting, we talked about we would actually bond the exact amount that was spent up to the amount that we approved in resolution. So if we only spent 7.25 million, we would bond 7.25 million. We wouldn't bond the 7.5 and decide where to spend that. Am I wrong there?
No, you're correct in that. What I've seen, and I don't want to put words in the mouth of our bond counsel, but from what I've seen the bond counsel has typically done with resolutions like this is they'll put that language in there with the intention that in the event the town council comes up and says, you know, we would also like to, let's just say the project comes in under budget by $1 million. And for whatever reason, we have the requirement to do an addition at the high school for a cafeteria. That language provides you with the flexibility for, rather than having to go out to another referendum, you could say we want to do this cafeteria, we've got the bond authorization to do it. Or let's just say we've got another referendum that's approved by the public to do that cafeteria, it gives you that flexibility to then use those authorized funds to help pay for that in some way, shape, or form. We actually used this language probably a year and 6 months ago when we were doing all the school construction work. I think it was Pleasant Valley was coming in over budget, and we had savings from the other previous bond referendums for the other couple schools. The Board of Ed came forward and requested the savings from those other ones be transferred over to Pleasant Valley, and I believe the council considered it and did move those funds. So it's the same scenario as that.
Okay. So the or other town property language that's in there sort of covers spending the extra funds on other improvements?
Potentially, yeah.
But it also, I mean, it's in the same sentence as new athletic facilities, which kind of tells me that we could decide to drop this anywhere on any town property, which isn't really what was presented to the council or the public, which kind of gives me pause.
Well, I understand that.
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's your resolution. If you wanted to take it out, you could. I would just caution you that, you know, if we find ourselves in a situation where bond counsel says, well, you know, you can't actually do a basketball court now because it's not, you know, identified specifically in that location, or, you know, you're looking to put the basketball court across the street, not at the same location, then we may not be able to do certain parts of the project.
all right, thank you.
So my question is, in essence, this is like an open-ended question where we were presented a plan of 7.5 million, and now we're adding the 55,000 on it, so it's like an open-ended where we can just put it anywhere we want on town property. I mean, we were presented a plan of the stadium or lighted field and the basketball, I mean, the tennis courts and the pickleball and the new driveway, but this, adding this 55,000 on it is like an open-ended ask that's not in the plan, that wasn't presented to the residents with the superintendent's presentation, right?
Well, the 55,000 was requested, I believe I saw that in an email from the superintendent. So, I mean, that's what she believes, I'm guessing the cost for the basketball court's gonna be. What I would tell you is, from my personal perspective, and I may be putting words in the mouth of the superintendent, and I might get a nasty phone call tomorrow, but, you know, both her and I do enjoy working in the town of South Windsor, and I think if we were to do something counter to, you know, what the plan that has been proposed, we would probably find ourselves in a situation where we weren't working for the community anymore. I've done a number of referendums and a number of projects with this exact same language, and those referendums came out the exact way that the public approved them. So I think it would be, while I understand it's a little bit of a leap of faith, this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of language that bond counsel has always requested in these resolutions to be there. Like I said, you could take it out, and that's perfectly fine by me. I just would caution you that there is the potential for certain parts of the project could not get done, possibly, so.
All right, I might have a follow-up question, but Councilor Pendleton?
Okay, thank you. The 55,000 is in the original printout, 755500000, all that there. Okay, so it's there. I'm not sure what you were talking about in the email because we never saw that email, but I'm just saying the 7,555,000 is there. It wasn't added in at any point in time. I do have, that's just for clarification, but I do have a question. I think what I'm concerned with is I don't like that open-ended town property, and I'm going to tell you why. The town owns a lot of property. The town has fields everywhere else. Using town property without a specific is concerning to me. If we could add a word in there or two that state where town property this is referring to, not removing it, because we could still use it on town property, but let us be a little bit in relation to town property, in relation to school property or something. be a little bit more specific on town property and what you're talking about, because we own a lot of town property. Even though, I mean, it is open-ended, there is no specific. So if we could do the South Windsor High School and town property in relationship to, they're conversing, it's okay. They're thinking. Okay, but you guys, oh, you have 2 ears and, okay. But you understand what I'm saying? Let's be a little bit more, there is a lot of, we could do it at the town garage since it says town property. We could do it down at the sewer treatment plant since it says town. I'm just want to be a little bit more generalized in relationship to this project and not end up in Lawrence Road Park. Major Michael Donnelly Park, that's town property also. I mean, we own a lot of town property. So if we could be a little bit more specific in relation to this project, maybe we could say after the word town property or something?
So I'm not bond counsel, all right, but let me just explain to you, and I think you've seen this before perhaps, I don't know if some of the other council members have. Bond resolutions are exceedingly and highly specific, right? If you
That's
look
what I'm
at
trying to be.
Exhibit B, right, you've got 3 pages
Right.
of detail. And this is the document that goes to the bond agencies and to your bonding companies to borrow money. Their underwriting counsel will look at these with a fine-tooth comb, and every dot and tittle is examined. This language, or other town property, has been added by bond counsel, all right? It's his standard form language. It's provided there to give you as much flexibility as you can have in relation to these funds, so that in the event, as we've discussed before, as the town manager was discussing, in the event there's the need to move money, if there's a savings on one project, you want to use it somewhere else in the future, the town council has the ability to decide that. It's not an open-ended checkbook to just go spend money on some other piece of town property. You'd have to come back to you, and you'd have to see it in paper. We have savings on this particular project. We want to be able to use it somewhere else in the future if in fact that contingency ever happens. It may never happen, but it gives you that flexibility. I think if you take it out.
No, I'm not saying take it out. I'm just saying, because it's open-ended town property.
Right.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm not saying anything about having the extra money. That's great. Let's have the extra money. Let's put the Little League field over at Eli Terry. Let's figure out something for the basketball courts if we have the extra money. I get the purpose. I don't like the open-endedness of town property. We own a lot of property. This is not specific as to where it should be done. If it's in relationship to this construction, then that would make sense. It's a little bit more town property is open-ended. We own a lot of town property. There's nothing specific here. So I'm trying to say, and you just said it's specific, but it isn't, because it's saying town property. I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be down at the EOC town property. It could be any piece of property we own in town. So if we added a few words in there that state.
For a designated purpose.
For a designated purpose, or something in relation to this project, or something. No, you're fine, Toby. Thank you, Toby. So, thanks for help. That's how it works. Cooperation, that's how it works. But do you see what it's something to be a little bit more identifiable to this project?
The only thing I could say to you is you could probably add language in there that says, or other town property as designated by the town council.
Well, we'd have to designate it anyways.
Right.
But I'm trying to say to keep it in, I don't want what we've talked about, basketball courts and baseball courts, ending up somewhere else on town property that it's not been identified as. It's supposed to be in relation to this with Eli Terry that she talked about and the basketball courts. That's what I'm trying to say.
You know, I think we need to maybe take a step away from additional basketball courts or something else and think about this a little bit differently, because, you know, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this, from my perspective, what this language is really there to do is, let's say we go and we do the improvements at the high school campus and we find that there's a drainage issue as a result.
Yeah.
and it's developing, because you're putting in a potentially impervious surface through turf field. Let's say we have to then create a drainage swale across the street at Nevers Park. This would allow for us to do that. If that language is not there, it would not allow for us to do that.
So then that leads me to ask you, Mr. Maniscalco, the property that's at the schools, the land, is that town property or is that under the jurisdiction of the Board of Ed?
It's town property.
That's town property. The Board of Ed is the jurisdiction of only the structure of the school?
The Board of Ed has the authority and jurisdiction over operating the school.
I mean, I understand, I get your point, your example. I understand your example.
I think if that helps at all. I don't know.
It's concerning to me that it's so open-ended. I would just hope, I would just wish it would say, I don't know. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Am I making any sense? I'm not making sense? I am making sense, and you're saying, no, I'm not making sense. I'm not making sense. It doesn't make sense to me either. I'm trying to figure it out. I just don't like that open-ended town property statement. If we could do it with designation to this project or something, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you said, but I'll stop.
I wasn't going to, but I will.
Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate all the input everyone's had and all the work that's gone into this. As a new counselor, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff to go through, and we were elected, so we thought, was to curb spending and to watch our money and to stop some things. And what's best for the town is ultimately is what we want to do, is what's best for the town. So by saying it's a lot for me, I'd like to make a motion to postpone the decision to the high school campus until the town and state budgets are complete so that we can better understand the town's financial position. I'd like to sharpen our pencils a little bit more and delay the decision.
Second.
Any discussion?
Was it seconded?
Yes.
No. Yeah, Councilor Carey.
Carrie seconded.
Discussion, Madam Mayor.
Made a motion to postpone it.
Oh, I thought it was a suggestion. I didn't realize it was a motion. Okay. So discussion on that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Siracusa?
Yeah.
I mean, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, not a problem. Yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna vote against postponing, but I do want to make everybody aware that this text that's in here, it's just, 4 words or other town property. I think folks are gonna see that on the ballot, and they may not go to Exhibit B or put in the research, and that may scare some people away. Again, I'm for putting this through to referendum, but I am a little fearful that those 4 words that are on there, again, I hope that most people will go back and look and educate themselves and see what it means in the discussion tonight. But I'm also aware that, some folks just go out in haste and go vote. So again, I'm gonna vote against postponing it and hopefully to put it to referendum, but I hope I'm wrong, but I feel those 4 words are gonna be a detriment to this current project.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you. For clarification, are we only discussing the motion at this point, or are we still discussing the overall? Just the motion. Okay. So I am definitely not in favor of postponing this. I think that's a huge disservice to the community who's asked us to put this forward. for them to be able to vote on it at referendum. And that, I think, would be a big mistake to postpone this to November. We've heard it's going to be a bigger cost if we were to postpone it. There's been a lot of work that has gone into this. We may not have learned about it at the very start of the work that was done, but there has been months and months of work that has gone into this. So I think, as the people have asked, I think it's up to us just to put it forward to the community and not hold this back any longer.
Councilor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councilor Evans as well as the Deputy Mayor. I will not be voting to postpone this. I think the minutes showed, even in our last meeting, I'm for this to go to referendum. I'm very much one of those individuals that say you get what you pay for. If the community says that they want this, then I have to say, okay, so then that way when something pops off later, I can just say, no, your name came to the public, came to the podium. No, you came 5 times to the podium. No, you came 6 times to the podium. And you guys all came here umpteenth time. I should have been home an hour ago. But you guys came, spoke your piece, and this is what you say you wanted. I think sometimes we get caught up in, unfortunately, saying what we like to do, not realizing that the reality of the situation doesn't allow us to do. And in this particular case, fortunately, we have residents that say, you know what, let's push this forward and let's keep it moving. That is specific to your motion, but also, it's also specific, if I understood it correctly, in regards to the other town property, correct? That's the reason you want to postpone it? No?
I'm not concerned about that wording at all.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Balboni?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I truly would love to hear what everybody, making sure that everybody having their chance to be heard, as one of our constituents said at the podium today. But I would like to mention that historically, the turnout in March referendums has been approximately 24% of the town, whereas in a presidential election, it's a lot closer to 90%. So would we really be hearing from everybody in March, or would we be more likely to hear from everybody in November? I'm all for this project. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see a lighted field. Again, I'm still back on, I think we need some corporate sponsorship to cut the town's cost and to not overspend.
Councilor Carey?
I agree with Councilor Balboni as far as the percentage of people that vote. I personally think we should have lighted field. When I moved here in 2003, I was astonished that we didn't have lighted fields. And I think the new tennis courts would be a great idea. But I also know that we had an historically high increase in taxes in this last year, and that recently I was in a town meeting with people who were pretty involved, and I said, so what do you guys think about the fields? And they didn't know what I was talking about. So I did share with them that they should go out to the Board of Ed website and read about the fields, but it made me nervous that while, yes, everybody who's involved with athletics is aware of the fields, and we have had these meetings, but I know myself, and I hate to admit this, there were many, many times where I didn't watch the town council meetings. And I don't know, do you guys watch us all the time or just when these topics are up, right? So there are people in town that don't know about this. I'm concerned about the timing, and I would really like our budget and anything else that's going to come through before we go to referendum on this. We are out bonding $8.5 million right now. We know that we will have to bond an additional amount of money this spring, and that the interest rates we're bonding at are high. So, I think this is a great idea. And again, personally, I think it's wonderful, but I think we have to be sure that all 25,000 residents of the town are aware of it and also fully understand anything else that's going to come in front of them before they try and vote for it.
All right, I'm going to just say a few things as well. I'm not against this project, but as I have to concur with Councilor Balboni, the corporate sponsorship should have been out there looking for corporate sponsorship first. And as I brought up at the last meeting, the state bonding question, when the superintendent was in the planning stages, could have gone to the state delegation looking for state bonding to help curb some of this coming from the town bonds. So if we, for example, if we got $1 million from corporate sponsorship and the state gave bonding of $1 million, that's $2 million we would have had left to do. Again, I mean, I've been in this town all my life, and the fields were never lighted when I was going to school, and that's 45 years ago. So, and Councilor Pendleton's not that far behind me. I mean, we didn't have, sorry to remind you, sorry. Right, I'm talking about, I agree with, and we, like I said, with our budget, we haven't looked at our budget yet. We haven't heard if the state is going to cut any funding to come back to the town. Again, with the car taxes that they're looking to cut. I think Councilor Lewis's decision or motion to postpone is actually a good idea at this time, to even go to November. If a referendum, if folks come forward and ask us to push it for November. But I'm asking, we're just looking to wait until our town budget is set and the state budget is set, which is the second meeting in June. So, any other further discussion?
Yeah, just.
Second round, Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, what is the cost of a referendum?
16,000.
52,400.
I want to say it's $30,000.
$30,000?
Yeah. Or in that ballpark, estimated. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe, does our board chair, I know that's been discussed, sorry, I don't want to, okay. Then let me ask another question. In the discussions of pushing this off, if it were to be voted on in November, what are the increased costs estimated to this project?
No idea.
I've only heard the superintendent say something in the ballpark of $1 million, but I'm not, I don't know.
Okay, I believe, does anyone from the Board of Ed want to come and speak to that number, or?
No, go.
The board chair is pointing to, I don't know. Anyway, regardless, my point is, if we were to put this to referendum in March, we are looking at approximately $30,000 cost. I think that's a little higher than what I've heard previously. If we are to wait until and put it to November, yes, we are saving $30,000, but we are also looking at an increased cost of a project of over $1 million. So if those who were elected on the idea that they are being fiscally irresponsible and that they are saving the town money, then the right decision is to put it forward now, move this project to the community to decide, and don't put an additional burden on the community by pushing it off. You are only increasing the cost by pushing this off.
Madam Mayor, for clarification.
Councilor King.
Just for clarification and for the record, the Board of Education intentionally aligned the proposed referendum date with the district's professional development day so that students would not be in school during voting. In addition, the spring referendum allows the construction to begin very soon after the referendum, which will mitigate escalation costs. Because this must be a summer project for safety reasons, we are restricted as to when construction can occur. If the project is not done in the summer of 2024 and is postponed until the summer of 2025, professionals estimate that the project cost could increase by 12 to 15% due to escalation costs, which could add approximately $1 million to the project budget. Just for clarification, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor King.
Okay. We also are aware, though, that
Councilor Carey?
sorry. I keep doing that, don't I? I apologize. So we're also aware, though, that the Fed is slowly lowering interest rates. And this project currently would go in at a high interest rate. So while I agree with you that there is $1 million cost on that, if you take into consideration the lower interest rates, if it gets delayed, you're going to have some balancing out here. Remember that the interest rated project is a 13 million plus project when you throw in the interest. Can we call the question?
Wait, hang on. I don't know what else to do, sorry. May I?
Yes, Councilor
Discussion,
President.
thank you. It doesn't make any sense to put this project off. I know what was mentioned here this evening is our budget and the state budget. And Mr. Maniscalco, do we not approve our budget before the state approves their budget? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So the state budget has no bearing on our budget whatsoever because we have no idea what the state is going to do because we approve our budget first. So that is not a legitimate complaint about all of this. And to be fiscally responsible and raise it by $1 million by putting this off makes no sense either. So let's be logical about this. And I'm discussing about postponing it. I will not vote to postpone it. I'm sorry, Toby. I will not vote to postpone this. Get it done, save the money while you can. And also another statement was made about the money and the interest rates. And Mr. Maniscalco, when we go out to bond for this is when we need the money. Well, we will carry this financially until we go out to bond for it, and by then the interest rates may well be down, correct?
Okay, so just real quick, can I just rewind? In terms of the state budget, yes, we typically approve our budget before the state budget. That doesn't mean it always has to happen that way. If the state actually got their budget done before us, then we would know that, of course. In terms of the way the finances would work for the project, we would pay for the project out of our general fund. And then I believe our finance director, Patty Perry, said we would be going out to bond for this project around late 2024, early 2025 timeframe.
So by then the interest rates may well be down. Yeah, the end of 2024, beginning of 2025.
I can't tell you what interest rates
I
are gonna
know,
do,
no one
but-
knows what's happening out there, but that's pretty much where they're saying they may be heading. It's going to be going down. So, you know, we may going into the 2% range, 2.5% range. That's going to be hard to see, but that's a possibility. You never know. But I don't see it being at, the 3.5 at the end of the year. So we may get it, especially with the triple bond rating that we have. So I won't be postponing this. The sooner we can get this done, the better. And the money's not going to be bonded until later in the year when the prices are going to go down. So that's what I got to say.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, again, I won't be voting to postpone. I do hear folks saying, that the interest rate is speculation, to play devil's advocate here. The $1 million increase is also speculation. I deal with RFP work and bid work and, to be fair to both sides, not both parties, just all the comments being said, that's also speculation as well. So I just want to make that clear. I do believe letting the town decide as soon as possible is the best thing. And I have pretty much heard everybody say they are wanting it to go to November. So I just don't see a whole lot changing from now until then, but it is what it is.
Councilor Lewis?
Thank you. I really do appreciate all the input. This is not a proposal or a motion to not have this. I want this to, I hope it goes through. The issue is look at our country, look at our state. How much debt can we keep piling up? Somewhere, someone's got to say enough. And I'm just saying, let's take a look at things a little bit closer. Maybe we can do a regular grass field with lights and tennis courts. Maybe there's options that can be done. I don't know. I'm not trying to open up that can of worms. But what I'm suggesting is that you allow us the opportunity to do what you elected us to do. And it's not just to say yes to everything that comes down the pike and say yes. Quite honestly, the tennis court should have been fixed a decade ago. But, you can't just fix everything by going to spend more money. And if it's too good to be true, then maybe it is. And maybe you gotta go look at it a little bit deeper. You know, the fact of the matter is, as Dr. Carter said here, that this is the most she's ever had to work for the smallest amount of money, and almost like the $7.5 or $8 million was not that big a deal. And yet you want, on the converse side, to have us make a big deal out of $1 million extra. $1 million changing this in our pocketbooks is nickels and dimes, comparatively speaking. We're trying to be wise with the bigger bucks and suggest that, my suggestion is to postpone this until we have more information. So motion's on the table. I move to call the question.
Second. Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstain? Roll call?
Counselor Buganski? Aye. Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Counselor Balboni?
Aye.
Counselor Carey?
Aye.
Mayor Delnicki?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa?
No.
Counselor King?
No.
Counselor Evans?
No.
Counselor Pendleton?
Absolutely no.
Motion passes.
So then I take it the agenda changes now? You don't need to do D?
That makes motion,
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Then that would take care of 13D as well as 13E. Well, if we're postponing that, then we wouldn't, correct? I just want to make sure. Okay. So we would be removing those from our agenda. Okay.
okay, moving on to 13F, Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Resolution setting a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on amendments to Chapter 66.
Point of
Library.
order. We didn't vote on amending the agenda.
I apologize. Pardon? I apologize. I should have made a motion to amend the agenda based on the postponement so that we take those off. I apologize. You're right.
A motion to remove
Yes, Madam Mayor.
13D and 13E due to the postponement of Resolution 13C.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion? Or is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Councilor King. And again, Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution setting a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on amendments to Chapter 66 Library. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets February 5th, 2024 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on amendments to Chapter 66 Library.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, Counselor King?
Yes, the only thing, Madam Mayor, thank you, is just to the point that was made by Mr. Kasikowski earlier, is that we just make sure that we put, what's the exhibit? Thank you. That we put Exhibit A for the public to see on the website, just so that they're aware. That's all.
That's, okay.
Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to make sure that we
Amanda,
said it in
if you can make
writing,
sure that's
that we
done.
put Exhibit A on the website as well, so that when people see it, they know exactly what we voted on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries. 13G, Counselor Balboni.
Resolution approving the 2024 budget calendar. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town hereby approves the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget calendar as more fully described in Exhibit C.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor Evans?
Thank you. I can't find the schedule in front of me. There, thank you. I just wanted to mention that, as I've mentioned in past budget seasons, some years it has been changed, some years it has not, but this does include April vacation. So for anyone who has children, children are off that weekend. I don't know if anyone's potentially traveling. I think most of you do not. That might just include me and Deputy Mayor Saracusa. But just for consideration, if you wanted to avoid those weeks, those dates.
You talk about the one with the Board of Education, March 4th?
It's the 9th and the 11th.
9th and 11th for,
Some years we have changed it and some years we have not, so. April, yes.
oh, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
Well, she's offering up a change, yes?
I'm sorry, I just probably didn't hear you because of the microphone, so,
No,
sorry.
do we want to entertain that change, or otherwise I can submit my questions? I think, oh, you also have children that week too. Sorry, I forgot
You
you.
have children?
Okay. So I don't know what the council feeling on that is, if they would like to make sure to have all the counselors here and available, or if we want to make a change to the calendar. Again, we have done it in some past years, and in other years we have not.
Are you looking to, just so I can get clarified,
Yes,
communication?
I'm looking to move the 9th
April-
and the 11th.
Move it to,
I would probably look to the town manager to make a suggestion on what would work, because
are you saying because this is like vacation week or something?
it is,
Okay.
it's April vacation for the Board of Ed.
Okay,
A lot of families travel. I don't know if any of the town employees or town staff are traveling that would be required to present. I know I myself will be away. So if it's just me, don't feel like we need to make the change, but I don't know if we want to be accommodating to others and to town staff and potentially people that might want to be involved in these discussions from our community.
is there any way to readjust the calendar, Mr. Maniscalco?
In terms of town staff, I know that the town departments that are identified here for those dates have already been made aware of those dates and have added them to their calendars. So, they should be prepared to present on those days. If there was a desire to move them, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could just pack everything into a single week. I don't know.
May I ask a question? What is the date that it has to be done by May?
I believe we have to be done by the 15th.
There's
in the
two dates
charter.
in there. One is the Board of Ed and one is ours.
Yeah, the Board of Ed's before the 15th.
Right.
And then
I
I
thought
know
the
the
town-
Ours is the
general government-
22nd or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Board of Ed's the 15th, and then the town is the 22nd?
May 22nd or something like that we have?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I think BOE is the 15th and ours is the 22nd or the 20. Somebody have. You're fine. Amanda, do you happen to know? Do you happen to know when the budget has to be approved by? 23rd or 22nd? Yeah, BOE is the 15th, isn't it?
Madam Mayor, technically, we could, based off of the comments that I heard, we could technically push that a week out. It's the same, the 9th and 11th is in the same week, and there is no school from the 8th to the 12th. And if we just pushed everything back a week, would that work?
Back or forward, which direction? To May?
Forward, I apologize. Forward, thank you.
So you're saying instead of April 9 and 11, you're saying
You know,
a week later?
April 3rd or April 5th?
no, I'm saying we would push it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
April
Thank you.
16th, what day of the week is that?
So the 9th is a Tuesday, the 16th would be a Tuesday, the 11th is a Thursday, and the 18th would be that Thursday. So essentially, what that does change, though, is that the 15th, which is the regular meeting and the public hearing, would move to the 29th. Oh, we don't have a meeting on the 29th.
Has to be in a regular town council meeting night.
I remove
It will move
my,
to the 6th.
I'll remove my request to adjust the calendar, and I will make sure to have my questions presented ahead of time.
Okay.
Mr. Maniscalco, do you have those dates?
So are we all just talking over one another, or what's the plan?
Correct, so the Board of Ed, I believe, has to be, what was it, March? Oh, the Board of Ed is accepted by May 15th, and then the council has to accept the general government by May 22nd.
Yeah, I was good.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew we can go
Thank
out
you.
to-
And that gives us, if we look at the, sorry, I just kind of took over. I'm just saying May 6th. That gives us a week or two of play there in case we need it. We have one more meeting? Or is that our meeting, May 22nd? Our first, the meeting we have on May 6th, and then we have another meeting.
But he's looking to adopt it on the 6th, so we have until another. 20th.
In case we need it, we have that
Which
second
is-
meeting in May to go
Right.
to. Right, we always leave a playing field there, just in case. Thank you.
Call for the question.
Excuse me, Counselor King, you weren't recognized to call the question. But I just have a question for Counselor Evans. I think you made a motion to change it, right? Did somebody second your
I
request?
didn't really make a motion, I was just throwing out a suggestion. So
All
if
right,
there was
just
no
want-
formal
just wanna
motion
make sure
made, I will
that-
just remove my suggestion.
Otherwise, I would have pulled back the second from somebody.
Yes, when
Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
Now, Counselor King.
Which question?
Okay.
The resolution. So we need to vote on the resolution.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Calendar is adopted. 13H, Counselor Evans.
Resolution accepting the resignation of Craig Zimmerman from the Charter Revision Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Craig Zimmerman from the Charter Revision Commission effective January 7, 2024, as more fully described in Exhibit D. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby extends its thanks for Craig for the time he has dedicated to serving his community by his membership on the Charter Revision Commission.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Counselor Evans?
I just wanted to thank Craig, as it was mentioned previously, you know, he really is a wealth of knowledge, and he really was a great contributing member to this commission, so I'm really sad, and it's unfortunate to see him to go, but thank you very much for what he was able to contribute.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Roll call, please.
Counselor Buganski. Counselor Lewis. Counselor Balboni. Counselor Carey.
Aye.
Mayor Delnicki.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Yes.
Counselor King.
Yes.
Counselor Evans.
Yes.
Counselor Pendleton.
No.
Tally, please.
I have 8 yeses and 1 no from Counselor Pendleton.
The motion passes. Moving on to 13I, Counselor Carey.
Resolution accepting the resignation of Bart Pasakonis as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Bart Pasakonis from the Planning and Zoning Commission effective January 19th, 2024, as more fully described in Exhibit E. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Bart for the time he has dedicated to serving his community by his membership on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Bart has been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for over 20 years.
Is there a second?
Oh.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. Sorry, I keep getting this wrong. Bart has been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 20 years and has done an outstanding job guiding that commission. He's been chairman for many of those years. So really want to send our appreciations for all that he has done, not just on the commission, but when we put in the moratoriums for the truck depots and residential housing. He was on all of those subcommittees and helped to see them through in the time frame allowed. So just, trying to acknowledge all of his hard work.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Counselor Evans?
I'm just, the date is throwing me off because it's saying effective January 19th, and today is January 16th. Are we able to accept as a council a resignation for a future date?
He's,
Yes.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. 13J, Counselor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Bina Pandit from the Human Relations Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Bina Pandit from the Human Relations Commission as more fully described in Exhibit F. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Bina for the time she has dedicated to serving her community by her membership on the Human Relations Commission.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I just wanted to say, oh, sorry.
Counselor King?
I can let Counselor Carey go first if she would like.
Okay.
From
Counselor Evans?
Thank you. From years of seeing Bina's dedication to the Human Relations Commission and the work that she's done, I really just want to thank her. And I know it was a tough decision for her to choose to have to step down. So I really just wanted to extend my thanks to Bina for all she has done for the length. I mean, she's been on for years. So really thank you, Bina. Wish you well.
Counselor Carey?
And I totally agree with Counselor Evans, and you said it much more articulately. And I do apologize. I will get this right after a while.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item 13K, Counselor Pendleton.
Resolution appointing Karen Lydecker as a member of the Charter Revision Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Karen Lydecker, Democrat, as a member of the Charter Review Commission to replace Craig Zimmerman, Democrat.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13L, Counselor Begansky.
Resolution approving of 7 refunds totaling $1,427.90. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves 7 refunds, the total of said refunds being $1,427.90, and is more fully described in Exhibit G.
We have a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 14, passage of ordinance. You have none. Item 15, public input for any matter. Public input for any matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speakers shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any matter. The speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on any matter at this time?
Is it working?
Yes,
Good
working,
evening.
Mr. Odell.
Matt Odell, 115 Pine Tree Lane. I know everyone wants to go home, but I just printed some stuff off the town website. All public knowledge. 2020 sewer bill. The Clark Street, Pleasant Valley, and Benedict Drive pump station have met their life expectancy and are presented in the design stages. 2020 in the design stages. Water pollution control. This is from one of their meetings, dated March 2nd, 2021. Pump station account. Whereas South Windsor WPCA has applied and received authorization from the state of Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection to hire the engineering from Arcadius to design the upgrade. And they got $1.1 million. 2021 sewer bill, we all get in the mail. A year or 8 months later. Clark Street, Pleasant Valley, Benedict Drive pump station have met their life expectancy and are presently in the design stages. Sewer bill 2022. Clark Street are presently in the final design stages. So you're telling me it takes 2 years to design a pump station that we paid a company $1.1 million. 2023. This is a comprehensive upgrade to the town's 3 largest watershed pump stations. We are in the application process. So as the gentleman said before, why did it take 4 years to go into the application process? Questions that should be asked to the WPCA. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Odell. Anyone else like to come forward on any matter? Going once? Going twice? 3 times? Moving on to item 16, communications from the council. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I wanted to thank the mayor for her comments at the start of the meeting. As mentioned, yesterday we honored Martin Luther King Jr. One of my children's former teachers shared a quote that resonated with me, and it's from his daughter, and she asked that more than quote Martin Luther King to honor him, that more importantly we honor him with our actions and how we impact our community. In South Windsor, we have made a difference, but there's still so much work to do. I'm proud of the work of the Human Relations Commission, the creation and work of the Social Justice Racial Equity Commission through the Black Lives Matter Subcommittee, and I'm also proud to be a part of a town that honors our LGBTQ plus community through a history of honoring requests of flying the pride flag on our flagpoles when a town not more than 20 minutes from our town has banned such flags on town property. An initiative created by former Mayor Paterna and continued by former Mayor Pendleton, South Windsor honored Reverend Dr. King through a Mayor's Day of Service. Yesterday, State Senator Anwar joined Hartford Bags of Love and Officer Barrett to continue this tradition. It's clear that we as a community support one another. It's important that we continue it and that the actions of the councils I have served on have demonstrated this. What is clear, however, is that far too many issues of social justice and racial inequity still exist today, despite all of the work by Reverend Dr. King and so many other generations. That's why all our community leaders must dedicate themselves to their daily work to make our community, our state, our country a better place to live, work, and grow for everyone. Only through that work will we genuinely celebrate the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as his daughter Bernice said, which was the quote, "Don't just quote him, encourage and enact policies that reflect his teachings." Thank you.
Any other communications from the council? Seeing none, moving on to item 17, Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Should we address taking 17A off now before I read it, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I would rather you leave that off because we are not prepared to talk about that one tonight, so.
Okay.
17A is not ready.
So make a friendly amendment to strike 17A as we're not ready to discuss that tonight. Moving forward, I make a motion to go into executive session and invite Michael Maniscalco, the town manager, and assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, for 17B to discuss proprietary business information regarding the Longleaf Development Tax Fixing Agreement. And I also want to mention we will be adjourning the meeting from executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Just for the public's information, as the deputy mayor said, we will not be returning to this room after the meeting. We will adjourn from executive session. So I'd like to say good night to everyone and thank you for attending and for viewing.